Hello, everyone. It's Shane Conto, your Wasteland review, and welcome to the Development Hell podcast. And we have a reduced movie club tonight, as we have Kevin, Vinnie, and myself here to talk about our scary movie of the year, because it is indeed wrapping up October for Halloween, and we're going with David Fincher's Se7en from 1995, starring Morgan Freeman, Brad Pitt, and somebody who played John Doe. And I'm doing that for one reason, and it's not the reason that you probably think it is. But let's start out how we usually start out, by going around, giving our general thoughts, and also talking about how many times have you seen the film, and just general thoughts. So, Kevin, you're up first.
Yeah, so this was, I think, my third time watching this. I still enjoy it just as much as the first time I saw it. I've been appreciating this movie a little bit more with each time I've seen it, I've found. Uh, the thing that stuck out to me the most was the way Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman played off each other. I really enjoyed them as a duo in this movie. Um, the murders are quite gruesome. Um, I guess we can maybe get into it a little bit later
Yeah.
which one you guys would agree is the worst. I have my own thought on that. Um, the twist ending, it gets better every time I see it. I really enjoy the buildup they have to it. It works out pretty well when you consider the entire plot. You can't really see it going any other way once it starts heading in that direction in the movie. Overall, really solid, great atmosphere in this movie. It's constantly raining. I would hate to live in that city. I enjoy it.
How about you, Vinny?
Yeah, up until this latest viewing, I've seen Seven a few times. The first time I saw it was freshman year of college. The guy I became friends with across the hall from me, he was a big movie guy. So one night he invited me over to his room to watch it. And up until then, I think the only two Fincher movies I had seen were Zodiac and Benjamin Button. So this really opened my eyes to like just how twisted, not that all of his movies are insanely twisted, but just like this one in particular, like it really just showed what like the madness going on inside Fincher's mind when he was making this. It's just like it's such like a it's such an enthralling movie, but it's also just so grim, just like so soul shattering. Um, that twist ending, like I remember, like when I first saw it, I was totally shaken. I couldn't believe I couldn't believe what was happening. And like we'll go more into detail, but that was probably like one of the biggest like wallops I've ever felt while watching a movie.
Yeah, this is probably my fifth, maybe sixth time watching Seven at this point. I probably watched this for the first time in college, maybe grad school. It was definitely one of those films that it's like, I think I was trying to get into Fincher films because, to be honest, I think the first Fincher film that I probably saw was Benjamin Button, which is an interesting one to like go in on first. And Kevin, we saw Girl to Dragon Tattoo together, right?
We did. When I saw it with you, I was actually seeing it for the second time.
Yeah.
I
So
saw
I
that
saw
in
that
theaters
one in
twice.
theaters. I saw Gone Girl with my wife, girlfriend at the time. We went to PetSmart afterwards because we needed to see puppies. Because God, Gone Girl leaves a feeling.
I
But
also walked into Gone Girl as a couple.
not a great film to watch as a couple. This particular film is my favorite Fincher still. It is dark, it is foreboding, it is such a great, technically well done procedural, and it gives you two detectives in two completely different places. The thematic tightrope that we're dealing with, especially with Somerset. Love Morgan Freeman's character in this film. And just the will he, won't he step away? Will he let this go? And that whole entire dynamic. And then, of course, who winds up being revealed as John Doe, which, what a stroke of genius that they did not advertise who played the killer in this movie. And I cannot imagine sitting in a theater and then just seeing Kevin Spacey, of all people, just appearing. His reveal is one of the best character reveals you're going to see in any movie of any character. It's just so effective. And for the limited time on screen that he's on in this film, he's haunting. It's chilling. And then, boy, does it really work, that concept of the 7 deadly sins. It's such an interesting idea. And I also have to give a big shout out to Howard Shore, who made such an unnerving and disturbing score to this film, to the point where I'm like, are you sure this wasn't Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross already doing scores for Fincher before? But no, Howard Shore gets so much attention for Lord of the Rings because, he did create one of the greatest scores in the history of cinema. But like, this score really, really works too. I do want to rip the Band-Aid off right at the beginning. Let's talk about some of these kills.
Well, I should say one thing really quick, like just in terms of like the reveal with Kevin Spacey. Don't forget, this is one of 2 big reveals that he had in 1995, because there was this and then the end of The Usual Suspects.
Oh, I forgot they came out in the same year. I felt like that came out earlier. My God, what a year for Kevin Spacey. And audiences specifically.
Just taking it back.
But man, it makes sense that he can play a creep, doesn't it?
It sure does. And there you go. So there's obviously 7 kills in this movie. Let's start with which one do you legitimately think is the most disturbing and messed up?
I have to go with Sloth.
I have to say that, so that gets me every time. That, I'm not going to go into detail because I don't want to spoil that for people, but it's probably one of the most effective jump scares.
Oh, we do spoilers in this, don't we?
Huh?
We discuss spoilers here, don't we?
We do, but like, I feel like there's certain things that I don't want to give away.
Yeah, that was the roughest one for me, though.
That's the thing. There's a couple of these that just from like a physical standpoint, looking at them at the end is just so disturbing. But like, that scene works so well because of the scare that they deliver with it, which I did not see coming.
But that also raises questions once you see that scare, because that makes me think this person had to go through it the most of any of the victims.
Well, it certainly was going through it the longest. Seeing as
that's
they
what
were
makes
torturing
it, for
them,
me,
for
that
like
makes it the worst. It's the most prolonged one, I would say.
How about you, Vinnie?
Some of the other ones were prolonged too.
Vinnie, which one messes you up the most?
The one that messed me up the most was definitely the lust victim. And
yeah.
when I watched it this time around, one thing I realized was like aside from more what made the setup for the lust victim for that scene so well is that they don't reveal until after the interview like what happened. So similar to the end with Morgan Freeman, when you don't see what's in the box, you just get like that reaction when he like jumps back repulsed. There's something else like that in the lust scene when they go to the sex shop and the guy gives him a photo of what he made for John Doe, and then you don't see the picture, like you just see Morgan Freeman looking at it, and then he just asks the clerk, you made this for him, and just from his reaction you're like, oh my God, like what are we in for? And then you get you get inside like the sex club, and just the guy is freaking out. You don't see like what he has strapped to him, but he just says, "Get this thing off me, get this thing off me." And then you find out through the interview like what happened. And again, it's so chilling, it's so disturbing. Like even though I knew what was gonna happen, I still like recoiled on my couch. I was like, ah, this is so terrifying.
That one
The
is difficult to watch.
Yeah, Leland Orser, the actor who plays the crazed man in the massage parlor, as credited in the film, him shaking and stammering through the whole thing just keeps building up that tension. And then, yeah, when they reveal the picture of what he had strapped to him, I'm just like, no.
Anyone else think about that shop owner though? Because he's like, oh, I've made worse than this, or weirder than this.
I This is effed up city. It's like this just, oh my God. The world that this film takes place in is so messed up. But Vinny, you brought this up. Might as well just rip the other band-aid off and
Well, in
talk
terms of
about
reveals, are we going, in terms of like spoilers, are we going into detail about the twist ending, or are we kind of just like
I feel
skating
like the
around?
twist ending's pretty well known already.
Oh, it
And I
Okay.
was
feel like,
spoiled to me before I saw it the first time.
yeah, I feel like we can talk about
Unfortunately,
that.
Okay.
Just specifically, I didn't want to give away that jump scare with Sloth because, like,
certain details, yeah.
yeah, so that moment, so like the tension's amazing. That Fincher builds
Yes.
up, builds up, builds up, and like the van's coming. You have John C. McGinley in the chopper, like yelling and whatever, and you have that perspective. You have the on the ground perspective, but nothing. It's such a little thing, but nothing hits me like that moment when Morgan Freeman opens that box, all the sound music cuts out, and he's just like that little bit of acting that Morgan Freeman does is incredible. And you're just like, what is it? Like, what's going on here? And he's like, and he starts freaking out, like he has the upper hand. Get like, I'm just like,
Yeah.
what is going on here? And Kevin Spacey's being so just cold and chilling. And then of course, what's in the box? And just like, what's in the box? And Brad Pitt really getting into that. And just the build up. And then when you find out what what is it? It's wrath and
Envy.
envy, right?
Wrath and
Yep.
Envy, yeah.
Yep.
2 for 1.
Yep.
He's the
Oh
final.
my God. That
Yeah.
whole entire sequence, it's some of the most intense pieces of film that just period. Like Fincher becomes such like this is a star-making performance for a director, this film, which is how much he's able to do. I know a lot of people love Fight Club the most. A lot of people have posters of Fight Club in their dorm rooms. But
I still
like
need to see that too.
Seven, I really feel like this is the film that puts Fincher on the map in terms of like, oh my God, what he can do as a director.
Hmm.
But like that moment where you realize that it's Mills's wife's head in the box, and then John Doe reveals she was pregnant, and I'm like, no, and you're just like, there's no stronger feeling than wanting to jump through a movie screen at that moment and just trying to like calm Brad Pitt down at that moment. And it's deflating trying to watch Morgan Freeman do his best to try to get through to Mills. And at that point, done. And you're just like, well, and then it happens. And wrath happens.
You know
And
it's gonna happen.
oh my God, that I get so stressed watching this movie because it's just the tension's incredible.
It's stressing even before that scene.
The whole movie's stressful.
Yeah.
In 1995, it was What's in the Box. The year before that with Pulp Fiction, What's in the Suitcase.
Yeah.
What's in the suitcase? Also Mills's wife's head. Apparently,
Might as well be.
we don't know.
Yeah.
Marcellus Wallace's soul. But it's just that end. This end. Well, technically, it's not the end.
Right.
There's at least one more scene in the film, but like, just the climax of this film is so incredibly well done. What Fincher is doing, what Morgan Freeman is doing, what Brad Pitt's doing, which like Brad Pitt's the much much younger actor in this situation,
Right.
and less experience, because like I know Kevin Spacey hadn't been like a big star up until like probably around this time, to be honest, with The Usual Suspects and this. But like you could tell like Brad Pitt's a younger actor, and like there's a lot of emotion that gets put on his shoulders. And like, not gonna lie, I've watched this movie with people and they've kind of laughed at him going like, "What's in the box?" And I'm just like, how are you laughing?
Yeah, I mean, what
at
would you
this-
do in that situation?
I'm like, how are you laughing?
Oh,
at this
actually,
moment?
golly, this is not good.
Well, you know what? Like in terms of like this movie, like real, like kind like kind of like boosting the careers of Pitt and Spacey. Like I was just doing like a little bit of Wikipediaing right now, and they were both nominated for supporting actor the following year. Spacey for The Usual Suspects, and Brad Pitt for 12 Monkeys.
Yep. This was the year that they really started taking Brad Pitt seriously as an actor, because like before he was just the sexy guy from Thelma and Louise. And like obviously like this film, but then you have somebody like Morgan Freeman, which also I would also like to talk about, speaking of actors and also David Fincher. I don't know if I'd want to work with David Fincher on some level, seeing as he's a kind of an asshole. But like, I know, so Haileigh Ermey, who used to be an actual drill sergeant, who plays the police captain here, apparently did not get along at all with David Fincher, because Haileigh Ermey basically ad-libbed his whole entire role in Full Metal Jacket, which is shocking that somebody like Stanley Kubrick would let somebody ad-lib a whole performance in his movie.
To be fair, I would let a former Marine drill sergeant ad-lib his role as a Marine drill sergeant.
And I think that's what Kubrick was thinking. It's like, well, he knows better than I do. But like Fincher would not let him improv at all. Like apparently Fincher's like, you are reading the lines in this script. That's it. And we'll do as many takes as it takes.
So Fincher and Martin Scorsese would get along then.
Well, as many takes as it takes, and we all know Fincher is the king of doing hundreds of takes, or one of the kings of doing hundreds of takes.
Him and Kubrick, but definitely not Clint Eastwood. It's just like
he's like one and done.
One and done, maybe two, maybe if we're lucky. But like, it's so interesting though, because like Fincher got in a fight with Ben Affleck over a baseball cap.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah.
I remember reading that.
He wanted Ben Affleck to wear a Yankees cap, and Ben Affleck's like, F that. Like, I'm not wearing a Yankees hat because, it's from Boston, but like turned into a whole entire thing. But like,
these things happen with Fincher on set though, right?
Yeah, it's hard to argue, the results at the end are so meticulously put together, but like, he is an asshole about it. But there's some great performances in this film. There's a lot of interesting, like Gwyneth Paltrow and I think Morgan Freeman have a really great scene together at that diner, which that's one of my favorite moments for Morgan Freeman in the film.
I would say I enjoyed their chemistry throughout the whole movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because
my favorite
Paltrow's not in the film a ton.
No.
She has a couple of scenes throughout the film. But like they do, that's such a great scene together, which then makes and that's the crazy part because that's the last conversation he has with her before he opens a box and sees her head. I think that's like thinking about that really makes that reaction hit so much harder because like they
Yeah.
had that connection. You have like Reggie Cathy who was on House of Cards. Um Richard Roundtree is in this very briefly. There's just a lot, like I mentioned John C. McGinley, aka Dr. Cox.
Oh, can we agree that
Um
John C. McGinley was having the most fun in this movie?
he brought an energy as one of the SWAT
This
guys.
one, they're like they love this.
Mark Boone Jr., who's popped up in so many like little things and stuff like that. He's the credited as greasy FBI informant. And just like there's so many great little character actor moments throughout the film. But I just this film works so well and the details. Like the fact that they have Kevin Spacey in this movie twice before
Right.
we even see who he really is. Like that moment with the photographer thing at earlier in the film, I'm just like watching this so many times since then and just realizing that's definitely Kevin Spacey. And then the whole chase where he leaves Bill
Chase.
alive at the
Yeah,
end is so good.
you know what? With that chase, I remember the first time when I saw this movie the first time, like I remember like being kind of disoriented because because like Spacey's character and Morgan Freeman's character, they're like almost dressed kind of like the same because like they have like the
Yeah.
hats, they have like the trench coats. So like because like they're like so many, there's so many like the there's so many like shadows and everything. Like you can't really see quite who's who like in terms of Spacey and Morgan Freeman when they're like trying to chase him. Like I remember when I first saw this scene, I was asking my friend, wait, like is that supposed to be Morgan Freeman? Is that supposed to be the killer? Who's who in this chase scene?
Yeah, and plus the fact that they're not showing his face because they're not revealing his identity
Mm-hmm.
yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
It's
good scene.
it's such a great choreographed sequence, and there's little moments of like him turning the corner and him just standing there shooting the gun at him and just gets you. And just the character, like all the things you learn about John Doe before you even interact with him, just when they're reading his notebooks, going through his apartment, and just so
Yeah.
detailed. And they allude to all that stuff in the opening credits. With the opening credits are creepy and
Those are
unnerving.
probably some of the that's probably like one of the best opening credit sequence in movies. Like just
Absolutely.
Preparing for the murders.
like it sets the tone right away.
Yep, absolutely. And then like I mentioned earlier, when you finally meet John Doe and like they're casually walk it's a wide shot, they're casually walking into the police station, but then you just see this figure walk up with these bloody fingers. I'm like, oh my. And then you're walking through and you just hear detective, detective, detective. And you're just like, and it's just him standing there and his bloody fingers and everything. And he's like, you've been looking for me. I'm like, holy crap. And then the film just goes from there. Every moment that Kevin Spacey's on screen in this film is just so unnerving, building up to that point. But like this film works so well as like a procedural who done it and everything. Watching Memories of Murder from Bong Joon-ho, which like 700% had such a big impact on that film, which is also really interesting because then Memories of Murder had such a big impact on Zodiac. It's just like the cyclical
Mhm.
influences of Fincher and Bong Joon-ho. Like this is one of my favorite procedural dramas that you're gonna find in terms of like a cop story. And I feel like this film hits a whole other level now with how obsessed our culture is with serial killers and true crime. and stuff like that. I feel like this would be like the biggest hit coming out today. And
Yeah,
it's
if
like,
it came out today instead, it would still attract a huge audience.
which that's the thing. I
But
don't know how. I'm actually going to check how well this actually did when it came
but
out. But
but also it came out today, given the trend of movie trailers giving everything away, like people would know that the killer is Kevin Spacey going into it.
I would hope that if something like Interstellar which Interstellar is what 9 years old at this point, did get away with like completely hiding a very big name
Oh
person
yeah,
in the movie.
that's true.
That, but that's the thing. That was 9 years ago. That stuff doesn't happen anymore. Like, you know how shocking it is to actually see an actor in a movie that you had no idea is going to be in the movie.
Well, with Interstellar, I think like I remember seeing that actor's name in the credits, so I knew he was gonna show up at some point, but like I just didn't know when.
Oh, see, I didn't even look up that movie before I saw it. That surprised me.
Also, Seven made $327 million worldwide. This is actually a humongous hit internationally.
Huh.
It made $100 million in the US, but made 70% of its box office elsewhere. Which I find that interesting. Very interesting.
You know,
It
I
was
forgot
a
about the
huge,
photographer part too.
it was a humongous hit in Japan.
Hmm.
Actually, that is the country besides the US that it made the most money.
How much did it make in Japan? Does it say?
$38 million.
Oh wow.
So I made the most here, but the remaining 70% was split up amongst a bunch of
Like the
countries.
whole world and stuff like that.
Okay, that's pretty respectable.
And this didn't. It doesn't even look like it had a Chinese release, which
Well,
I don't know
well,
how this would have gone over in China, but whatever.
it's nice that Fincher had this success after going through all the troubles of the Alien 3 production. So,
Yeah, this was his first movie after that, right?
mhm.
Yep. Yeah, I'm shocked that he got another chance, to be honest. But
but, but
like,
but
glad
but I
that
mean
he
with
did.
but I mean with Alien 3, like wasn't the issues with that movie, wasn't it mainly because of the studio and not Fincher?
Yeah, but like that doesn't mean he wouldn't get blamed for it. It's a cruel world, Vinny. Just watch this movie.
Watch any Fincher movie, really.
Well, yeah, that's the biggest thing about this film is like this world is cruel. And I love it has the same nihilistic vibe as No Country for Old Men, where you have this aging woman who's bored, like teetering on retirement, who isn't quite sure how to handle the world around him anymore. There's actually a lot more in common between those movies than I thought before I actually made that comparison. But it's such an interesting perspective on Somerset trying to navigate. Like, he knows this place so well, and he's definitely at that point where he's like, forget about Jake, it's Chinatown. Kind of at that point where it's just like, this is just how it is, unfortunately. And he's kind of broken. And then he gets the spark with this case and he can't let it go. And he's really trying to get to the bottom of it and trying to stop this terror. And this film's so nihilistic that like he fails. Like, John Doe won. He got all 7 of his murders. And that's the scariest thing about John Doe is he's perfectly fine dying for his plan to work.
Right.
How do you combat that? It's like Joker level, just pure chaos. Just like it it's just why like Somerset's such a great protagonist in this film for this story, and Morgan Freeman does an incredible job with him. And then just John Doe's such a perfect antagonist in this film, and Kevin Spacey does exactly what he needs to make him unnerve us and dig under our skin.
Morgan Freeman works really well as the film noir protagonist in this movie. I really dug that vibe that the movie was giving off. It's
Mhm.
constantly drenching, raining. It's gloomy throughout the entire movie. They got flashlights when they're going into the murder scenes. I dug the visuals of this movie.
But well, like what helps make the setting so impactful is that you know they don't specify like where this is. Like it
That's good. Yeah,
it could literally be like any city.
yeah,
Yeah, and special acknowledgement to Darius Condi, who's the cinematographer for the film, who shot films like Amour, Delicatessen, Midnight in Paris, along with this. Oh my God, he did Uncut Gems.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Like, boy, does he know how to work on a film that stresses you the hell out? Because Uncut Gems also a movie that stresses me out a lot.
And also between Seven, Uncut Gems, and Midnight in Paris, you know, you really have a cinematographer who specializes in cityscapes.
Yeah, true. That's an interesting perspective too. And yeah, them not acknowledging what city this is, being a nondescript city, and yet they don't show like legitimate sunlight until you get the unrelenting sun and heat of
yeah.
the climax of this
Mhm.
film where it's all out in the open. And I feel like that's what makes that climax so distinct and memorable. And
It's got him fully out in the open.
well, and to dig a little deeper into maybe the symbolism of that, it's all out in the open. That box is opened, all is revealed. And this story is no longer a clandestine cat and mouse game of trying to uncover what's going on, and it's just all out there, and we're all out there, and it's an open nerve, and you're just like, well, something's gonna happen. We're gonna die of a
Well,
heart attack watching
well,
this movie.
yeah, and it's like they're in the city. It's constantly raining, but then, but one thing is being revealed after another. Everything like figuratively is being washed away. By the time you get to the climax, like like you said, everything is out in the open, and here's what it's all been leading to.
And boy does it hit. But I really do feel like we need to take Somerset out for a drink.
Oh God.
Yeah,
So I we're definitely taking Somerset to
Applebee's.
taking him to
Applebee's.
Applebee's, getting him a few drinks because he could sure use it.
And
I
Applebee's
don't.
outside of his city.
Yes, we're inviting Somerset here, like to for wherever he is from his nondescript city. I would invite Mills, but I don't know if he's going to jail or not.
Yeah.
Um,
I like that they leave that ambiguous with him too.
he
Yeah,
at least is
because
not a cop anymore.
Right, right.
because in the end, all Arlie Harmy is it Arlie? What's his
R.
last
Lee
Ermy.
Ermey.
Ermy, yeah.
Arlie Hermy. Yeah, because in the end, all Arlie Hermy says is we'll take care of him. So you don't know if that means are they gonna send him to like a therapist? Are they gonna send him to jail? What's gonna happen to Mills?
Yeah, it
I
looks like
feel
he's being booked, but they still have him in his regular clothes and everything's. I mean, they're just driving him, but
I feel like he'll
I feel like you're
bare
not supposed to
bones
know.
lose his badge, obviously.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
And
because I mean, yeah, like he's clearly. I mean, yeah, he went through this horrible thing, but I mean, he's not going to be stable for a long
I was
time.
thinking even if he doesn't somehow, he's giving it up. After that, I'd say.
he's leaving that city if he's not going to jail, he's leaving that city.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he can handle it anymore. And nor
Well,
would he I don't think he would want to be there knowing
well,
that, like that's where his wife died and his
well,
child died.
and that makes you think this is definitely going to change his worldview because it's like that scene in like the second half of the movie when he and Morgan Freeman are out getting drinks, and Morgan Freeman, he has like a more cynical view of the world, but then Brad Pitt, he's more idealistic and saying he's saying, I want to help people, this is he goes on
Yeah.
he goes on about how about being optimistic about his job and assisting people, but now after that ending, I mean, that's those views are clearly going to change.
Yeah, he basically spends this movie speed running himself into Morgan Freeman's viewpoint of the world in the worst way possible. And he
Absolutely.
starts out with those somewhat admirable views, like you were saying, and it's like, he has some promise and it all comes crashing down.
It's absolutely heartbreaking by the time that you get there, because
And that's
like
kind of the purpose of the plan and all that.
absolutely. But do either of you have anything else you wanted to add on our discussion for Seven?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to touch a little bit more on Somerset and what's her name, Tracy.
Mhm.
The wife is Tracy.
Yep.
Tracy's
Mhm.
relationship. I dug how they got along. Um, so we were just talking about how Somerset has this nihilistic viewpoint, and I feel like once he starts to get to know the Mills a little bit, you see a little bit of a glimmer of hope in him that I can have some friends here. Maybe everything isn't all bad. I appreciate how they squeeze that in there to just hammer everything home.
Well, you know what? One little thing, one little bit of dialogue I really like about that scene is you know, uh, I think at one point Tracy says, I don't know, I want to have children, but I don't know if I can bring a child into a world like this. And then I really like how one way how Morgan Freeman shows like how like how I'm trying to find the right word. I guess like to show like how he believes that it is questionable to bring a kid into a world like that. He says, if you do have this kid, make sure you spoil them like any chance you get, because he knows that the child where they're going to be living, it's a terrible place, and they need every ounce of happiness that the parents can give them.
Yeah, it's good to see that moment between them with him looking out for her and also just the way he opens up to her by giving her his little backstory as well. I appreciated.
Absolutely. Yeah, the interactions that he like that particular interaction where he's trying to give her advice at the diner, like even prefacing it by being like, I don't know if I'm the one to ask about this or whatever, but like, of course, it's Morgan Freeman and gives like the most amazing advice in the world, and in the perfect way possible. But I just want to read Ernest Hemingway once wrote, "The world is a fine place and worth fighting for." I agree with the second part. Just that, and that is as hopeful as you're going to get in this film. Yeah, the
Yeah,
world isn't a good place, but it's still worth fighting for. And I think that's just such a great impactful thing to like tack on at the end of this film, because
it
it's true.
is. And it's a good summary of his character, who is, in my opinion, the main character of the movie.
Absolutely. And it's just the perfect ending to how the story goes. And it puts him in an interesting place that, like, maybe he does want to keep the fight going. Maybe he isn't going to retire.
Yeah, I
And
do like that they don't quite clarify that either, but I get that impression.
which apparently there was plans to make a sequel to this, which the only way that, like, I would imagine wanting a sequel to happen is if it's just another case
Yes.
that
It
has
doesn't
some
even have to
kind
be
of
remotely
impact on
similar.
him.
Right.
Yeah, where it's not like don't need to be like doesn't need to be like a John Doe copycat
Right.
or something like that, just so that it's like, and they want to make an eighth kill.
Yeah, I
Eight.
could see it working if
Like,
it's just the same character in a different situation.
yeah. But like that's how much I love Somerset as a character. Like I would enjoy watching him try to solve other cases.
Mhm.
But I at this point I don't think that's ever gonna happen. They're talking more about having a social network sequel than us getting eight. So that's an interesting thought. All the new things that they could talk about how social media is changing the world. Um, but anything else?
One question: if they made a movie called Eight, where would they put the letter eight when they stylize it? I think it would
Would
be
it
the
have to
G.
be the would it be the E or the G?
I think the G.
Probably. Do we want to take a look at this for those actually paying attention to the screen?
Okay.
So we got we're gonna make this work.
Shane
Love
Kanto,
it, love it.
Shane Kanto, podcast host, graphic designer.
Yeah, see, it kind of looks like an eight when you do it that way, doesn't it? I mean, like a G.
Yeah,
That actually
Ooh,
works pretty
there
well.
we go.
yeah.
There it is. That's
Money,
all of David
please.
Fincher.
Ka-ching.
Copyrighted.
Money, please. Will we get eight? I don't know, but we still have seven, and that's great.
Yep.
And this also really works out too because the killer is going to be when this video posts, it's still in limited release in theaters. It comes out on Netflix November 10th, that
Yep.
Friday.
Yep.
So definitely worth checking out. Good to see Michael Fassbender back and stuff. And this is the first film since Mank that we're going to get from Fincher. So that's exciting.
Well, and actually didn't the screenwriter of Seven write The Killer? Andrew Kevin Walker.
I'm going to confirm.
I'm pretty sure he did.
I believe you. To the IMDb.
Interesting thing I found out when I was Googling this movie after I
Yes.
watched it today is that apparently they test screened this movie and there were mixed reactions to the ending, and the studio was fighting to remove the twist ending entirely, and they only kept it in because
Wait.
David
Are you
Fincher and
talking,
the cast.
are you talking about The Killer or Seven?
Oh, I'm talking about Seven. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I've not seen The Killer.
Me neither. So, wow, that would
We almost didn't have it. Yeah, we almost had a totally different ending.
Yeah, would have been a Hollywoodized ending. They killed John Doe in a shootout.
Right.
America.
I would think that's probably what they would.
And then we end with an American flag randomly placed on one of the giant, electrical wire towers, as just like slow pan out. Perfect, chef's kiss. It would have made $500 million in the U.S. if it ended that way.
Missed opportunity.
But that's our discussion on David Fincher's Seven here on the Movie Club, and we'll be coming back next month with a new film that not specifically themed, but I'm sure will be absolutely as random as usual from what we choose from. But from Kevin, from Vinnie, and from Shane, thank you as always for tuning in and supporting the Development Hell podcast.